Let me start with something that stopped me in my tracks when I first came across it: a simple food, something most people already have in their kitchen, something that costs almost nothing and takes maybe 5 minutes to prepare. And yet, when researchers started looking closely at what this food does inside the human body, what they found was honestly remarkable. Not in a headline grabbing, overpromising kind of way, but in a quiet, steady, backed by real science kind of way, the kind of finding that makes you think, why isn't everyone talking about this more? Today, I want to talk to you about what happens to cancer cells when you eat this specific food for breakfast every single morning. I want to walk you through the science in plain language. I want to show you what researchers have actually found, why your body responds the way it does, and why something as simple as your morning meal might be one of the most powerful daily decisions you make for your long term health. And I want to be clear up front, I am not here to sell you anything, and I am not here to make wild promises. What I am here to do is share real, research supported information that you deserve to know so that you can make better choices for yourself and for the people you love. So, before I get into everything, I want to ask you something. When you wake up in the morning, what does your breakfast actually look like? Be honest with yourself. Is it something quick and convenient? Is it something you grab without thinking? Or is it something you have been intentionally choosing because you believe it is genuinely good for your health? Drop your answer in the comments below. I read them, and I genuinely love hearing from you. And if you have ever made a specific change to your breakfast that made you feel noticeably better, tell me about that too. Your experience might encourage someone else who is reading those comments right now and wondering where to start. All right, so let us get into it. The food I am talking about today is oatmeal, specifically whole oats prepared simply, eaten consistently first thing in the morning. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Oatmeal, that is it? You built up this whole intro for oatmeal? And I completely understand that reaction. Oatmeal feels ordinary. It feels humble. It does not feel like medicine. But here is the thing: some of the most powerful things we can do for our health are not dramatic or expensive. They are consistent, simple, and deeply underestimated. And oatmeal, when you look at the actual cellular biology of what happens after you eat it, is one of the most underestimated foods on the planet when it comes to cancer prevention and cellular health. Let me explain what I mean. And I want to start not with oatmeal itself, but with the environment inside your body that either protects you from disease or makes you more vulnerable to it. Your body is made up of trillions of cells. Every single day, those cells are dividing, repairing, communicating, and responding to the environment around them. And that environment, the internal terrain of your body, is shaped enormously by what you eat, how you sleep, how you manage stress, and how much movement you get. When that internal environment becomes chronically inflamed, when it becomes flooded with oxidative stress, when it becomes dysregulated in terms of blood sugar and insulin, something starts to shift at the cellular level. DNA gets damaged. Cells that should be signaled to die off instead begin to survive and multiply when they should not. The immune system, which is your body's natural cancer surveillance system, becomes less effective at identifying and eliminating those abnormal cells. And over time, that is how disease gains a foothold. Now, here is where oatmeal enters the picture, and here is where it gets genuinely interesting. Oats contain a specific type of soluble fiber called beta glucan. And beta glucan is not just any fiber. It is one of the most studied, most validated compounds in nutritional science for its effects on immune function, inflammation, and cellular health. When you eat oats in the morning, that beta glucan travels through your digestive system and does something remarkable. It acts as a prebiotic, which means it feeds the beneficial bacteria living in your gut. And why does that matter for cancer? Because your gut microbiome, that community of trillions of microorganisms living in your intestines, plays a direct role in regulating your immune system. In fact, researchers now estimate that somewhere between 70 and 80% of your immune activity originates in the gut. So, when you consistently nourish that microbiome, when you give it the fiber it needs to thrive, you are directly supporting the immune cells that patrol your body for abnormal, potentially cancerous cells. But beta glucan does not stop there. Multiple studies have looked at how beta glucan interacts with specific immune cells, particularly natural killer cells and macrophages. These are frontline defenders in your immune system. Natural killer cells, as the name suggests, are designed to identify and destroy cells that have become abnormal or infected. And macrophages are the cleanup crew, the cells that engulf and eliminate cellular debris, pathogens, and yes, early stage cancerous cells. What researchers have found is that beta glucan actually activates these cells. It binds to specific receptors on their surface and essentially signals them to be more alert, more active, more effective at doing their job. Think of it like giving your immune system a morning briefing and a strong cup of motivation. That is what the beta glucan in your oats is doing at a molecular level while you go about your day. Now, I also want to talk about something called avenanthramides. This is a polyphenol compound found almost exclusively in oats. You will not find it in most other foods. And avenanthramides are powerful antioxidants, but more specifically, they are powerful anti inflammatory agents. And inflammation, chronic low grade inflammation that persists silently in the body over months and years, is now understood by the research community to be one of the central drivers of cancer development. When cells are bathed in inflammatory signals for extended periods of time, genetic damage accumulates. Tumor suppressing mechanisms become impaired. The conditions that allow cancer to develop and spread become much more favorable. Avenanthramides work against this process. They suppress the activity of a signaling pathway called NFKB, which is essentially a master switch for inflammation in the body. When NFKB is chronically activated, inflammation runs unchecked. When you consistently deliver avenanthramides through your diet, you are helping to keep that switch in a more balanced state. And a body with lower chronic inflammation is a body that is fundamentally less hospitable to cancer. Let us also talk about blood sugar, because I think this connection is one that people do not always hear about when it comes to cancer risk, and it is critically important. The relationship between blood sugar, insulin, and cancer is well documented in the research literature. When blood sugar spikes repeatedly throughout the day, the body releases insulin to manage it. And insulin, in addition to its role in blood sugar regulation, is also a growth promoting hormone. It signals cells to grow and divide. In a healthy body, that is part of normal metabolism. But in an environment where there are already abnormal cells present, that growth signal can be deeply problematic. High insulin and a related compound called IGF-1, insulin like growth factor 1, have been associated with promoting the growth and proliferation of cancer cells in multiple studies. So anything that stabilizes blood sugar and reduces those repeated insulin spikes is genuinely working in your favor from a cancer prevention standpoint. And here is where oatmeal truly shines. The beta glucan in oats forms a gel like substance in your digestive tract. This gel slows down the absorption of carbohydrates into your bloodstream. Instead of a rapid spike in blood sugar after eating, you get a slow, steady, gradual rise. Your insulin response is more moderate. And over time, if you are eating oats consistently in the morning, you are starting each day with a meal that keeps your blood sugar stable, keeps your insulin levels in check, and therefore reduces one of the environmental triggers that cancer thrives on. That is not a small thing. That is a meaningful, daily, cumulative act of protection. I also want to mention something that researchers have found specifically about colorectal cancer, which is one of the most common and most preventable cancers worldwide. There is compelling evidence linking dietary fiber intake with reduced risk of colorectal cancer. And the mechanism makes sense when you understand how the colon works. When you eat fiber, including the fiber in oats, it adds bulk to your stool and speeds up transit time through the colon. This means that potentially harmful substances, carcinogens from food, bile acids, and other compounds that can damage the cells lining your colon spend less time in contact with that tissue. The shorter that contact time, the lower the chance of DNA damage in those cells. Beyond that, when your gut bacteria ferment the beta glucan from oats, they produce compounds called short chain fatty acids, particularly one called butyrate, and butyrate is remarkable. It is the primary fuel source for the cells lining your colon. and it has been shown in research to promote healthy cell turnover, suppress inflammation in the colon, and even trigger a process called apoptosis, which is essentially programmed cell death in abnormal cells. So, butyrate helps healthy cells thrive while encouraging damaged or abnormal cells to die off the way they are supposed to. That is your body's built in quality control system, and eating oats consistently helps fuel it. Now, I want to take a moment and address something that I think is really important for the way we think about food and health. No single food prevents cancer. I want to be very clear about that. Cancer is complex. It is influenced by genetics, environment, lifestyle factors, age, and many other variables. Eating oats every morning does not make you invincible, and it does not replace medical care, regular screenings, or the advice of your doctor. What it does do is meaningfully shift the internal environment of your body in a direction that is less favorable to cancer development and more favorable to healthy cellular function. And when you do that consistently, day after day, over months and years, the cumulative effect is real and it is significant. Small daily choices compound. Your breakfast is one of the most consistent rituals you have. Choosing to make it something that actively works with your biology rather than against it is one of the most practical and powerful things you can do. So, let me walk you through what an ideal cancer protective oat breakfast actually looks like, because how you prepare it matters too. Start with whole rolled oats or steel cut oats, not instant oats, not flavored packets loaded with added sugar. Those products have had much of the beneficial fiber structure disrupted, and the added sugars work directly against the blood sugar stability we just talked about. Plain, minimally processed oats are what you want. They take a little longer to cook, yes, steel cut oats especially, but you can prepare them in advance overnight in big batches. There are very practical ways to make this work with a busy lifestyle. Now, once you have your base, what you add to it matters enormously because plain oats are a vehicle for other incredibly powerful ingredients. And when you combine them thoughtfully, you amplify the cancer protective effect significantly. The first thing I would add is blueberries, or any dark berries if blueberries are not available. Berries are among the most antioxidant rich foods on the planet. They are loaded with compounds called anthocyanins, which have been studied for their ability to reduce oxidative stress in cells, support DNA repair mechanisms, and inhibit the growth of certain cancer cell lines in laboratory research. A good handful of berries on your oatmeal every morning is not just delicious, it is actively contributing to your cellular defense system. The second addition I would strongly recommend is ground flaxseed, just 1 or 2 tablespoons. Flaxseed is one of the richest sources of lignans, which are plant compounds that have been studied extensively for their role in reducing the risk of hormone related cancers, particularly breast and prostate cancer. Lignans work in part by modulating estrogen metabolism in the body, helping the liver process estrogen in ways that produce less of the more aggressive estrogen metabolites associated with increased cancer risk. Flaxseed is also a great source of omega 3 fatty acids and additional fiber, making it an almost perfect addition to your morning oats. Third, I would add a sprinkle of cinnamon. Ceylon cinnamon specifically, if you can find it. Cinnamon has significant research behind it as a blood sugar regulator. It contains compounds that mimic the action of insulin and improve how your cells respond to it, further enhancing the already excellent blood sugar stabilizing effect of the oats themselves. And cinnamon also has anti inflammatory and antioxidant properties that add to the overall protective profile of your breakfast. Fourth, consider adding walnuts, a small handful. Walnuts are unique among nuts because they contain a specific form of omega 3 called alpha linolenic acid, and they are one of the most studied foods in relation to cancer prevention. Research has shown that walnuts can influence gene expression in ways that are related to tumor suppression. They also contain L-glutanins, compounds that your gut bacteria convert into urolithins, which have demonstrated anti-cancer activity in research settings. Walnuts on oatmeal is a combination that is almost ridiculously good for you. And finally, if you enjoy it, a light drizzle of raw honey or a small amount of pure maple syrup can add natural sweetness without the blood sugar disruption you would get from refined sugar. Your goal is to keep added sugar minimal, but a small amount of natural sweetener can make this breakfast genuinely enjoyable, which matters for consistency. A breakfast you actually look forward to eating is a breakfast you will eat every day. And consistency, as I keep coming back to, is everything. I also want to spend a moment talking about the broader context of what this breakfast is doing for your body beyond just the anti cancer effects. Because I think when you understand the full picture, you feel even more motivated to make this a daily habit. The beta glucan in oats has some of the strongest evidence of any food compound for reducing LDL cholesterol, which is the form of cholesterol most associated with cardiovascular disease. This is so well established that regulatory agencies in multiple countries have approved health claims on oat products related to heart health. So while you are supporting your cancer protective immune function, you are simultaneously reducing your cardiovascular risk, and the two are not unrelated. Cardiovascular health and cancer risk share many of the same underlying drivers: chronic inflammation, oxidative stress, poor blood sugar regulation, and an unhealthy gut microbiome. When you address those shared root causes, you are protecting yourself on multiple fronts at once. Oats are also deeply satisfying and satiating. The combination of fiber, protein, and slow digesting carbohydrates means you stay full for hours after eating them. This has a downstream effect on your overall diet quality because when you are not hungry and not experiencing blood sugar crashes mid morning, you are less likely to reach for processed snacks, sugary drinks, or ultra processed foods that actively increase inflammation and oxidative stress in the body. Your breakfast shapes your entire day. Starting with oats quite literally changes the nutritional trajectory of the hours that follow. And then there is mental clarity. Many people who make the switch to oatmeal for breakfast report feeling more focused and more energized throughout the morning without the crash that comes from a high sugar breakfast. That stable blood sugar, that steady fuel supply to the brain supports better cognitive function, better mood, and better decision making throughout the day. And when you feel good, when you have energy and clarity, you are more likely to make other good health choices. It is a positive cycle that starts with one simple bowl in the morning. Now, I want to speak for a moment to those of you who are not just watching this for prevention. I know that some of you watching right now are dealing with a cancer diagnosis, either your own or someone you love. And first, I want you to know that I see you, and I am so glad you are here looking for information. For you, everything I have shared today is still deeply relevant. Supporting your immune system, reducing inflammation, stabilizing blood sugar, nourishing your gut microbiome. These are things that matter at every stage of health. They matter when you are healthy and trying to stay that way. They matter when you are in treatment and trying to support your body's resilience. And they matter in recovery. Food is not a cure, but food is information for your body. And giving your body the right information consistently is always worthwhile, always meaningful, always worth doing. Please always work closely with your medical team and discuss any dietary changes with them because your specific situation matters and they know your case in ways that I cannot. For those of you who are healthy and watching this as a preventive measure, I want to encourage you with something. The choices you make now, today, this week, this month, they are building the foundation of your health 5, 10, 20 years from now. Cancer does not develop overnight. Chronic disease does not appear without a long buildup. And the same is true in reverse. Prevention is not an event, it is a daily practice. It is the accumulation of thousands of small, intentional decisions made over a lifetime. And adding a bowl of properly made, nutrient rich oatmeal to your mornings is one of those decisions. It is accessible, it is affordable, it is backed by solid science, and it is something you can start tomorrow morning. I want to also address the question of sustainability because I think it is one of the most honest conversations we can have about health habits. Many people start a new health practice with enormous enthusiasm and then abandon it within a few weeks because it felt like a burden or a sacrifice. The beautiful thing about oatmeal is that it does not have to feel like that. When you make it well with good toppings, with the berries and the flaxseed and the cinnamon and the walnuts, it is genuinely delicious. It is warm and comforting. It is something you can customize endlessly to suit your mood and the season. In winter, you can add warming spices like cardamom and ginger. In summer, you can make overnight oats with fresh fruit and a spoonful of almond butter and eat them cold. There are so many variations that you could eat oats every morning for a year without repeating yourself. And when a healthy habit is also an enjoyable one, you do not have to rely on willpower to maintain it. It becomes something you genuinely want to do. Let me also say something about the people in your life. One of the most powerful things that happens when you start paying attention to your health is that it ripples outward. When your partner sees you making better choices, it opens a conversation. When your kids see you preparing a thoughtful breakfast, you are teaching them something without saying a single word. When you share what you have learned with a friend who is struggling with their health, you become a source of encouragement for them. Your breakfast is not just about you, it is about the example you set and the culture you create in your household and in your relationships. Never underestimate the influence you have just by quietly showing up for your own health every single day. I also want to talk about what you pair your oatmeal with in terms of drinks, because this matters more than people realize. The ideal morning beverage alongside your oats is water, plain or with a squeeze of lemon. Lemon water in the morning supports digestion, provides a small dose of vitamin C, which supports immune function, and helps you start your day hydrated after hours of sleep during which your body has been doing its restorative work. If you enjoy tea, green tea in particular is an excellent companion to this breakfast. Green tea contains catechins, particularly one called EGCG, Epigallocatechin galate, which is one of the most studied natural compounds in cancer research. The combination of the compounds in oats working in the gut and the catechins from green tea working through multiple cellular pathways makes for a genuinely powerful morning protocol that costs almost nothing and takes almost no time. Coffee is fine in moderation too. In fact, there is solid research suggesting that moderate coffee consumption is associated with reduced risk of several types of cancer, including liver and colorectal cancer. The key word is moderation. And if you take your coffee with lots of added sugar or sweetened creamers, that benefit is significantly offset. A cup or two of plain coffee or coffee with a splash of unsweetened plant based milk alongside your oats is a reasonable and evidence supported choice. What I would steer away from is fruit juice, even so called natural or freshly squeezed juice. Juice strips away the fiber from fruit, leaving you with essentially sugar water. It spikes blood sugar rapidly and does none of the gut supporting, satiety promoting work that the whole fruit would do. If you want fruit with your breakfast, eat the whole fruit on top of your oats rather than drinking it separately. Your gut microbiome will thank you. Now, let us talk about something I think a lot of people wonder about but do not always ask. How long does it actually take to notice a difference? When you make a change like this, when will you actually feel something? The honest answer is that it depends on where you are starting from. If your current breakfast is a sugary cereal, a pastry, or nothing at all, you might notice improved energy and reduced mid morning hunger within the first week. Your gut microbiome begins to shift meaningfully within 2 to 4 weeks of consistent dietary change. Blood sugar patterns improve over a period of weeks to months with consistent eating habits. The cellular and immune effects that we have been discussing, the upregulation of natural killer cell activity, the reduction in chronic inflammatory markers, these are longer term changes that build over months and years. You will not see them on a day to day basis, but they are happening. Every morning that you choose this breakfast, something good is occurring at a level below your awareness. And that is what a true health investment looks like. It is not always flashy, it is not always immediately visible, but it is real and it compounds in your favor over time. I want to close today by coming back to where I started: a simple food, an ordinary morning, an extraordinary opportunity. Every single morning, you get to make a choice. You get to decide what you put into your body before you face the day. And that choice, repeated over and over, day after day, week after week, is quietly and powerfully shaping the terrain inside you. It is influencing whether your immune cells are alert or sluggish. It is determining whether your gut microbiome is thriving or struggling. It is affecting whether your blood sugar is stable or spiking. It is shaping the inflammatory environment in which your cells live and divide. Those are not small things. Those are the fundamental conditions that determine whether your body remains a place where health can flourish or whether it gradually becomes more hospitable to disease. You deserve to live in a body that is doing everything it can to protect you. And the extraordinary thing is that your body wants to do exactly that. It is designed for health. It is oriented toward healing. It is always working on your behalf. All it needs from you is the right inputs consistently over time, and your breakfast is one of the most powerful inputs you have. So, tomorrow morning, I want to invite you to try this: whole oats, a handful of dark berries, a tablespoon of ground flaxseed, a sprinkle of cinnamon, a small handful of walnuts, a glass of water, or a cup of green tea on the side. Give it 30 days, just 30 days of starting your morning this way, intentionally, consistently. And I truly believe you will feel a difference, not because this is magic, but because this is your biology doing exactly what it was designed to do when you give it what it needs. If you found this video helpful, please share it with someone you care about: a parent, a friend, a sibling, someone who is trying to take better care of their health. This kind of information should not be hard to find. It should be in front of everyone. And when you share it, you make that possible. Leave me a comment below and tell me whether you already eat oats in the morning or if this is something you are going to try. I genuinely love reading your stories and your questions, and I respond as often as I possibly can. Your questions also help me decide what to cover next, so they matter more than you know. Take care of yourself today. You are worth the effort, and I will see you in the next one.